Hey, Keith here for Am I Rich? And today I thought I'd do a little bit of a different program and just talk about a sector that I think is under pressure. And so today I'm talking about the container shipping industry. And the reason I was thinking about the container shipping industry is because recently I was thinking about bananas and I went to the grocery store and they didn't have any bananas, which is really odd. And then a few weeks later, I went to the grocery store again, and then a week later I went to the grocery store again. And I've been to a few grocery stores in my area, and they all have shortages of bananas. And this is really bizarre for me, but it made me remember that there's this kind of fungal epidemic that's going on with bananas. And so it made me wonder, is the banana industry experiencing shortages of banana supply because of this fungus? Now, it might not be the case in my area, but this is a growing trend as a lot of South Asia has already experienced these fungal infections in their plantations. This doesn't allow them to grow their banana crops in these fields anymore once it's in the field. And so it's really put a strain on how many bananas they can grow, and it is slowly changing the market. Now the banana companies are trying to improve, their containment of this disease, and they're also researching ways to get new bananas that would be fungal resistant. But currently, there's only like one genetic variety of banana that the majority of the world eats. And this is the problem because in the past, there was one other genetic variety that people ate, and that one was killed off entirely by a fungus that's similar to this new fungus. But because of that, they had to switch over the whole banana industry, and now we eat bananas that are less tasty. But we still like them. And so I can see this as a major downward pressure on the banana industry, and I was wondering how could I invest, or what kind of sectors would be affected by this demise of bananas. And it turns out that banana companies are mostly privately owned, all the big ones are, and they basically control their own shipping routes for the most part, and until you get to the grocery store almost, or maybe the last couple trucks that ship these bananas, they are really in control of the whole industry. So it's hard to really invest unless you're already a billionaire, in which case it might be still hard. But what it did make me think about was shipping and container shipping. So when I was looking at some container shipping companies, I noticed that the container shipping industry, a lot of their stocks, they all seem to be down to quite low lows since their past history. And so it made me start to look into the container industry, and the reason for these lows are basically because of a few factors, but one was maybe like 2016, 2017, there was a lot of anticipated growth, global growth. And, even before Donald Trump came in, there was talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, so there would be global trade around the Pacific, and there's more shipping going into Southeast Asia, near India and Pakistan, because more products are being made there instead of China. So you're getting all these changes in the shipping industry and maybe more shipping routes. So there was anticipated growth. And so because of this, you had a few competitors come in. So maybe some joint ventures or something, they would try and make more efficient, large scale boats so that they could do shipping more efficiently. Or basically a whole bunch of companies started getting more ships built for anticipation of these more new trade routes or increased global trade. But then what happened basically in 2018 was a few things. They realized they had an oversupply of boats and in the world. And this is like the oil industry. I mean, like, anytime the oil prices are sky high, you get everybody drilling way more oil than we need, and then suddenly have an oversupply and the price of oil crashes. The same thing happens with the shipping container industry. So when global trade is expected to grow, everybody builds new ships, they go out there, and then they can't fill the ships. And the same thing happened, like the global economy basically wasn't growing as fast as expected, and then you had things like trade war tensions, and maybe there is a China slowdown, or maybe there will be a recession coming in the next few years. So because of this news, basically since 2018, you've seen, or maybe a little bit earlier, you've seen these companies just tank. And they haven't, some of the companies, because they bought these new boats and they haven't been able to fill them, or haven't been able to, once they fill them, they haven't been able to do trips across their shipping routes as frequently. They've basically ended up in situations where they're not profitable, losing lots of money, and they might go bankrupt, or at least be, in such a struggling position that they might be acquired by a bigger company. So this is the downward pressure on them, and it continue. But the reason I'm looking at this industry and thinking right now, the price to earnings ratio for a lot of these companies, like around the 7 PE ratio, which is fairly cheap. Now, if the whole industry is like that, it might be fair. But if you look at their past history, all the stocks are usually in that area at the low end, and then they usually rebound when the economy picks up again. And so I see this as maybe an opportunity, and I can kind of see this as a few ways to play the game. Is right now you're probably at one of the lower points of their stock price because they've anticipated a global slowdown and trade wars. But if trade improves, or the economy doesn't slow down as much as expected, or after a recession even, global trade's going to continue, and these shipping containers are going to be moving still. And if you have new trade agreements, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership does happen, with the new administration in the US, or maybe under adjusted rules or something, or even more shipping in the South China Sea, you could see a growing demand for this business. Now, it's very competitive, and that's why they don't make a lot of margins unless they fill their ships, and they keep building bigger ships to kind of meet the scale. But there's a limitation because you have to also go to a port. But the way I see playing it is basically you look at, there are two ways maybe. One, you could look at a disruptor company, one that's going to do some kind of big scale improvements to improve costs. And the other one is to look at the ones who are already in the top, and they will probably be around or be able to compete for quite a while. So the biggest one is Maersk. It's a Danish company. They've been around since the 1990s as the biggest. I mean, they've been around since the early 1900s maybe, but they've been the dominant player in the world since maybe 1996 or something. So, and if you look at their stock, basically every time there's anticipated global growth, it goes up, and then it crashes down. So it takes about a year to go up, and then after that, some bad news comes along. It's not as good as expected. And because it's such a competitive market, I don't think it should be as good as expected. But when it goes up, it usually doubles, sometimes triples or more for some of these companies. So it is really good. And then the other way I look at it, you could invest is, looking at the disruptors. And something like that might be the one company. I think it's a Japanese and Singaporean kind of joint venture. But they're looking at big economies of scale, big boats. But right now they're like in real financial struggles. And some of these ones, you look at their stock and it's just, like not 5% of what it used to, or of the original price. So it's very stressful for those businesses. They might go bankrupt, so you could lose all your money on those. So that one's a little bit riskier. You really have to do your research and find out which ones you think will make it through this tough time, and then actually take advantage of the next big trade boom. Otherwise, the big companies, they're also at really decent prices right now. And I see, if trade fixes, like I said, or, new trade deals are made, or I don't see oil prices going up that much. In the past, if they go up, then you see a decline as well in their profit. But right now, like, there's always, the oil prices struggle to go up really high because it seems like every time it goes up a few dollars, more and more people drill. So I don't really see that as a huge issue. But yeah, so I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you guys think the shipping industry is a good industry that could be invested in the future? Which companies do you guys think are the best? Or do you guys think there's another industry that you'd like to look into that might be more interesting than the shipping industry? I'd love to know your thoughts. Feel free to comment below. Otherwise, Thanks for watching this, and let me know if you want me to do more of these. Anyways, that's all for now. See you or talk to you next time.